So I figure why not do a ranking of the Suicide Squad Kill the Just League bosses. After all, it's the main selling point of the game. So at number 4, Superman, kinda telling that my least favorite boss is the most powerful member. And I know mechanics wise Batman is probably worse, I'll get to him later. A big factor is it basically reuses aspects from the Green Lantern and Flash bosses in a really distracting way, especially when those other two were able to be distinct from each other. So it uses counter shots from the Flash boss, which were unique there for affecting the Speed Force. Here I guess it helps his already altered DNA be affected by gold kryptonite or something. And then there are the various ice structures that could weaken you if you get close, which are similar to Green Lantern constructs, but it feels more contrived to have those hurt you. Scale wise, a lot of the bosses have been good at least allowing you to use the full arena. It felt like a great scope with Lantern and Flash bosses, but getting to Superman it starts to feel a little small scale. Like you'd think at that point they'd at least try to spice things up and maybe throw you through different arenas, but at most it just changes from a nighttime setting to a daytime. It was a decent way to change things up and introduce new moves, but it still was the same location. It's wild how much smaller this fight felt compared to the Flash one where he was summoning Gray and Speed Force phenomena, whereas here it's like, oh, I'm gonna slowly throw a helicopter at you. The second half at least had big old solar flares. It would have been neat once getting to this boss to have like King Shark somehow enhanced be able to brawl up close with Superman, the one technical metahuman on the team. Then you can have your barrage of bullets in between those personal fights. Anyway, that's just my thought. Overall, it just feels weird. Number 3, Green Lantern. Okay, part of it is I'm just not a fan of how he was characterized in the game. Like a lot of the leaguers, but especially him. What's with the beef he has with Black Deadshot? It's kind of a shame since Deadshot was like a main earlier on in the game and cool to think of him as coordinating a team, though I actually couldn't do that while single player. Then with the bosses I just use King Shark for a better gun. Guardians of the Galaxy I actually have the coordination. It's just kind of wild to think they try to have us root for a forced race bend over an awesome original character. But anyway, getting the actual boss itself was kind of fun having to convert to constructs and such. My biggest gripe is I felt like they could have been more creative with the constructs, but I guess they had a decent selection for weapons they had. Now number 2, Batman. There's a lot they fumbled with this sort of boss, but if nothing else I appreciate that at least earlier on it was more than just a barrage of bullets. A whole trippy fear gas section, and the music is fire. Feels like there could have been a lot that could have been done better. Most of the imagery is just aping the Arkham Knight Batman fear sequence, with occasional sprinklings of character-specific attributes. Most of the voice of the characters basically sound like the same as their respective characters, and often don't offer much insight. Boomer, it's just never Australian. Hurley, it's literally herself. King Shark could offer some interesting insight with his father, but then he says goofy stuff like, I'm my own fish. The Deadshot dialogue with his daughter has some bangers. Helps this is actually quite distinctive voice. You kinda deserve it, Dad. But right now, they're real and you're not. Hard stuff. I also like how with each squatter, it gets more and more intensive, with it being a full-on minefield with Harley. Maybe because she's the worst character or something. Now as far as the final stage, yeah, it's really nothing. Just shoot at the Batman figure. Bullet sponge. This part got the least compared to the other bosses, and I don't blame people saying it's the worst. Other two just had more annoyances for me, and I at least like glimmers with Fear Toxin. And now number 1, the Flash. Yeah, he kinda wins with the least stuff annoying me, and got the most fun from him, especially being early on in the game. The Speed Force phenomena was utterly ridiculous, but felt like the most entertaining use of a boss. Like the ball thing or tornadoes, literal force of nature. A lot of the voice acting was fun. I basically imagined it was some evil Flash like Reverse Flash, which Flash is known for anyway. It's the earliest in the game before it really feels like the drag. It might be a passive aggressive number 1, but number 1 no, nonetheless. So that's my overall ranking of the bosses. Was something I just felt like doing a video on the game. Being a big Arkham fan and a lot of people were having a say on the game while not touching on the gameplay. Like I don't like the story either, but at least talk about the video game. I got it while it was on sale, which was still a little steep, but it was inevitable. Anyway, we'll be curious of what gaming related stuff do in the future of this channel. Anyway, cheers.